Hey, let me show you a very simple concept using triads so you can start experimenting with this and play things like I just played. Very super simple, right? But instead of chugging along to your songs, you can start using triads and start experimenting with new stuff. So I'm going to be using an E shape to play through all this chord progression, right? The chord progression is A minor, F, G. And if we look at our E shape, we can divide that E shape and color it into 3 colors, right? And we've got a red, a green, a red, a blue, a green, and a red. So we've got 3 reds, 2 greens, and just 1 blue. And what does this mean? What is a triad? A triad is 3 notes played together. So if this E chord shape has 3 colors, any one of those combinations of colors should give me an E triad, correct? And you are correct. So I'm going to choose strings 1, 2, and 3, and that's going to give me a red, a green, and a blue. Hey, there's a triad, right? I'm going to choose strings 2, 3, and 4, and that's going to give me a green, a blue, and a red. That's my other triad. And I'm going to choose strings 3, 4, and 5, and that's going to give me another triad, which is blue, red, and green. So I've got 3 possible combinations to create an E triad. Now the cool thing is that to go from an E major chord to an E minor chord, only the blue note has to move. So if I get that E major and I move my blue note 1 fret lower in pitch, that creates an E minor chord. And because the colors stay the same, my triads are located on the same place. So I've got strings 1, 2, and 3. That's my little triad. I've got strings 2, 3, and 4. That's my little triad. And I've got strings 3, 4, and 5, again available to me to play a minor triad. Awesome. Now what's cool is that you can move those triads across the fretboard. Same as you can move chord shapes. So if I get that E chord shape and I move all the notes that create that E chord shape, I leave nothing behind. And how do I do that? Well, I place my index finger behind that chord shape and I move it up 1 fret to create, for example, an F chord. Now, because the shape is the same, the colors and the triads are going to stay in the same place. So for example, for an F major chord, my triads are in strings 1, 2, and 3, are in strings 2, 3, and 4, and are on strings 3, 4, and 5. Awesome. Now to get this major chord and transform it into an F minor chord, well, because it's an E shape, I know that I got to move my blue 1 fret lower. That creates an F minor chord, and my triads are in exactly the same place. Strings 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, and 4, 5, 6. Okay, so now we understand what triads are. We understand that we can move chord shapes across the fretboard to play other chords. So I'm going to get that E shape and start moving it across the fretboard till I find an A and then make it an A minor. That's my first chord, remember? So E, F, I'm moving all the notes together following that same shape. G, A, and now I get that blue note and make it a minor chord. Awesome. So what are my triads over here? Same shape, same colors, same triads, right? Located in the same place. So I'm going to choose strings 1, 2, and 3. And because they're on the same frets, I can play them with 1 finger. Pretty awesome, right? That's my A minor chord in triad form with just 1 finger. Now I want to look for my G. So I'm going to get my E again, move all the notes together, followed by my index finger, F, G. Because the previous chord, I only use the 3 thinnest strings, I'm going to stick to that too. So what is my triad over there? This over here, right? Strings 1, 2, and 3. Now look at how similar this little shape I'm doing is to the one I found for A minor, sorry. That's A minor. This is G major. I just have to add 1 fret to that blue note to create a major chord. So now I can play A minor with 1 finger. I add that blue note to my G major, and I'm going to glide that 2 frets down to play F. Now, if I complete that F, you'll see that little triad belongs to that F. So how easy is that? A minor. I move to G. To F. To G. To A minor again. But we already discussed that we can find triads on strings 2, 3, and 4, for example, right? So I'm going to complete that A minor chord using an E minor shape, and I'm going to focus on strings 4, 3, and 2. So I can fret that like this, and now I'm going to move to G, 2 frets lower, but that's a G minor. So how do I make it a major? I get the blue note and I add 1 fret, right? So I'm just going to bring my middle finger to find that note. Awesome. Move that 2 frets lower to get an F. 2 frets higher to play G again. And then I move to A, 2 frets higher, but I lift up my middle finger to create that minor triad. How easy is that too, right? So now I've got 2 possibilities using 2 options of 3 strings to play that minor triad, major triad, major triad, and back to my minor triad. But we discussed in the beginning of the video that we can also use strings 3, 4, and 5. So I'm going to complete that A minor chord using an E minor shape. Remember, we moved it from here to here, okay? And I'm going to look for my triads on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th string. Now I'm going to fret this with my index on the 3rd string, my ring on my 5th string, and my pinky on my 4th string, so that when I move 2 frets to G, I can get that blue note and add a fret to it with my middle again. Okay, so this is A minor in triad form. I move to G and add my middle finger to add a fret to that blue note. I move to F, back to G, and back to A minor. So you can see for all 3 triads, we're just adding 1 note to make it major, 1 fret to the blue note to make it major, subtracting 1 fret to make it minor. How easy is that? Let's play it with the 3 thinnest strings. Now let's play it with strings 2, 3, and 4. Now let's play it with strings 3, 4, and 5. Here we go. How cool does that sound instead of just strumming along to your songs. Now you can get any backing track on YouTube and use these little triad shapes to find your chords and start playing very interesting parts to those songs you love. And hey, if you want to know more on how the fretboard works, I've got this little book for you that you can download for free. Yes, for free, full of diagrams, full of explanations. You want to learn cage, you want to learn triads, you want to know how the fretboard works, you want to learn about rhythm. Everything's included in this little book that you can download for free. The link is going to be, I believe, down in the description, somewhere down there or in the comments. You're going to find the link to be able to download this book for free, and I'll see you inside.